What happens when a global celebrity walks onto a live television set thinking the rules do not apply to them, only to discover that one host refuses to be pushed around? It took just one comment about respect for everything to completely fall apart. This is the story of how Meghan Markle went from a calm guest to a furious storm in the span of a single interview on Piers Morgan's show, and how her own words became the very reason she was escorted off the set. The morning started like any other for Piers Morgan. The studio lights were bright, the cameras were ready, and the producers were buzzing with excitement. They had secured one of the biggest interviews of the year. Meghan Markle, the Duchess who had stepped away from royal life, was coming on the show to talk about her new projects and her life in America. Piers sat in his chair, flipping through his notes. He knew the interview would attract attention. Everything Meghan did drew attention, but he also knew his responsibility. Ask tough questions. Do not let celebrities glide through easy pre-approved talking points. Give the audience the truth. When Meghan walked onto the set, the audience applauded. She smiled and waved, her presence filling the room as if she owned it. She wore an elegant cream-colored suit, her hair styled perfectly, every detail carefully planned. "Meghan, welcome to the show," Piers said, standing up to greet her. "Thank you for having me," she replied, her voice warm but cautious. They sat down, and the cameras began rolling. At first, everything seemed fine. Piers asked about her life in California, her children, and her charity work. Meghan answered smoothly, using polished phrases about peace, healing, and living authentically. But Piers was not interested in surface-level talk. He leaned forward. "Let's talk about something people really want to know," he said. "You've spoken strongly about the British media, calling it toxic, unfair, and even racist at times. But isn't it true that you also welcomed that same media when it benefited you, especially when promoting your projects?" Meghan's smile tightened. "That's a very simplistic way of looking at it." "Is it?" Piers pressed. "You appeared on magazine covers, welcomed photographers at charity events, but when the coverage turned critical, suddenly the media became the enemy. Isn't that convenient?" "That's not what happened," Meghan said, her voice rising slightly. "There's a difference between professional media work and harassment. Lies were printed. My actions were twisted. But who decides what's a lie and what's fair criticism?" Piers asked. "You made serious accusations about the royal family and racism. But when people question your version, you call it harassment. Do you understand how that looks?" Meghan shifted in her seat. "I lived through it. I know what happened. I don't need to justify my experience. When you make public accusations on international television, you do," Piers replied. "You accused people without naming them. You damaged reputations. And when the royal family stayed silent, you took that as proof of guilt. That's not fair." "I never said it was the entire family," Meghan snapped. "And I had every right to tell my truth." "Your truth," Piers repeated. "Not the truth. Your truth. That suggests other perspectives exist. But you don't seem interested in hearing them." The tension in the studio grew thick. The audience sat in silence. "I'm not going to be interrogated," Meghan said. "I came to talk about my work, not to be attacked." "Attacked?" Piers replied. "I'm asking questions. That's my job. If you can't handle that, maybe you shouldn't do interviews. Maybe I shouldn't do interviews with people who clearly have an agenda." She shot back. "My agenda is the truth," Piers said calmly. "You left the royal family, gave explosive interviews, signed massive deals, and now you want full control of the narrative. That's not how journalism works." "You don't know what I went through," Meghan said, her voice shaking. "You live in a mansion in California, have millions, and an enormous platform," Pi said. "You're not a victim. You're one of the most privileged people in the world." "I never asked for pity," she said. "No, you just expect unquestioned belief," Piers replied. Suddenly, Meghan stood up. "I don't have to listen to this." "Sit down," Piers said calmly. "No, I'm done." "If you can't handle a real conversation, you're free to leave," Piers said. The audience gasped. "You can't stand that I walked away," Meghan shouted. "You hate that I have power now. You hate that I don't bow down to you," Piers responded. "You want royal treatment without royal responsibility. You're twisting my words." "I'm holding up a mirror." Meghan ripped off her microphone. "This is harassment." "Oh, please," Piers said. "You came here expecting control. It didn't work." "You're a bully," she snapped. "Get out," Piers said quietly. "What?" I said. "Get out." Security stepped forward. "This isn't over," Meghan said. "Yes, it is," Bi replied. She finally walked toward the exit, stopping several times as if expecting him to call her back. He didn't. "You're making a mistake," she said. "The only mistake was thinking you wouldn't be questioned," Piers answered. "Goodbye, Meghan." The door closed behind her. The studio sat silent. "Well," Piers said, turning to the camera. "That was interesting." A nervous laugh spread through the audience. "You just witnessed what happens when someone used a special treatment faces real questions," he said. "I didn't attack her. I asked reasonable questions. She couldn't handle them." He leaned her onward. "This happens when celebrities surround themselves with people who only agree with them. They lose touch with reality. I've interviewed world leaders, actors, athletes," he continued. "They stayed. They answered. That's professionalism. But not Meghan." He said she believes she's above accountability. The audience began clapping. "We had a full hour planned." Piers said, "We didn't make it 15 minutes. 15 minutes of honest questions was enough for everything to fall apart. So ask yourself," he said, "if your story is solid, why fear simple questions?" He stood. She wanted a platform, not a conversation. He looked into the camera. "Truth matters. Accountability matters. No one is above scrutiny." He returned to a seat. "This didn't have to happen. A real conversation could have happened. Instead, we got a spectacle." "You can't demand privacy while chasing publicity," he said. "You can't ask for sympathy without accountability. Calling journalists bullies doesn't change facts." He paused. "When someone storms off because of questions, the problem isn't the questions." He straightened his jacket. "We'll take a short break. And remember, no one is above being asked to explain themselves." The lights dimmed as the show got away.